Town Council votes on the final problem property ordinance. Negotiations continue for the town's future trash disposal contract. Plus, road work is set to begin again on the Sagamore Bridge. We'll tell you when. These stories and more on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Friday, October 18th, 2013. I'm Sarah Mannel. Banks will now be held responsible for the upkeep of foreclosed properties in Barnstable. Last night, Town Council passed its final problem property ordinance, this one for vacant or foreclosing properties. Councilors Jen Cullum and Ann Kennedy sponsored the ordinance. Kennedy encouraged her fellow councilors to support the measure before the vote.
The intent of this ordinance is to be remedial rather than punitive. The banks are used to this kind of ordinance in other jurisdictions. And follow them readily. But absent this ordinance, they have an issue with possible liability if they try to maintain a property that they don't have title to. So this, I think, fills in that gap that occurs when a resident has vacated their property, and that's key. They have to have vacated. And the bank becomes in possession because they have a key, but they don't have ownership because they haven't gone through the entire foreclosure process that can take 18 months, a year sometimes. So we, with the help of the legal department, we've modeled a lot of this ordinance on ordinances from other jurisdictions that have successfully dealt with this, and so we hope you will support it.
Councilor Cullum also voiced her support for the measure and reminded councilors that they would have the chance to review or make any changes to the ordinance in a year.
There's a one-year review set, which I think is super important. So if we find that, unforeseen circumstances, it isn't what we wanted it to be, it's not working for our communities, it's not, not saving neighborhoods from being degraded, we can take another look, nothing's set in stone, and it will be 1 year, so.
The measure passed with 11 of the 12 councilors in attendance voting to support the ordinance. Trash disposal costs are expected to rise when the town's current contract with CMAS expires in 2014. Town officials are hard at work negotiating with multiple trash disposal companies to get the best rate possible for the future contract. DPW Director Dan Santos updated town councilors on the negotiation process at last night's town council meeting.
So if I can just touch on a few of the highlights here. The base term, and you can see, actually, if you look at both CMAS and the other competitive proposal that we've been negotiating with seriously is the New Bedford Waste Services. You may have read about it. They've had presentations here, and they've provided a very competitive proposal for disposal of our municipal solid waste. And what we're talking about here is just the material that is trash, not the recyclables. At this point, recyclables can be part of this. I'd like to see it part of it. It's the municipal trash that is brought to the solid waste transfer station. That's the amount of money we're talking about, which is about 9,000 tons a year of municipal solid waste at this point for the last several years. So the base term of the contracts would be 10 years, and CMAS having a 5-year extension period with 1 extension in the terms, and New Bedford Waste Services having 3. Important aspect here is in the tonnage, no minimum, no maximum. That was a significant change from what was originally being proposed by CMAS Covanta. They wanted to have minimum tonnage. And a lot of the terms, these contracts got to the competitive place they are today because of this new vendor coming on the scene in the last year. They really provided a competitive, workable solution, which I think caused Covanta to have to put pencil to paper and become a little more competitive than they were with their original term sheet through the Cape Cod Commission. And that was one area where now there's no minimum, no maximum. Unacceptable waste, there's just a small difference there where Covanta is suggesting that they would remove or may remove and transport at town's expense, and New Bedford Waste Services would basically ask us to remove it, or it would be at our option how that gets done. The tipping fee, obviously probably the most important aspect of this is tipping and transportation. Right now, the CMAS tipping fee, I'm negotiating with both of these companies very regularly. I'm on the phone with them regularly, meeting with them, and that number is not been finalized. And given the sensitive nature of it, I'd rather not divulge it at this point. I don't want to just jeopardize what that might be. But the New Bedford Waste Services, they've made it very clear what their rate is to all comers. They've presented it. It's been in the paper. It's $60 per ton. Escalation, 2.5%. Annually. They've been in the Covanta contract right from the start. That's in the current contract terms, and that's basically they're not negotiating on that aspect of it. Neither company. Transportation costs. This is the big, perhaps unknown, but the area where there's possibility for we can have some cost savings. The Covanta contract includes transportation. And that transportation is from the Yarmouth Barnstable transfer station in Yarmouth by rail. The other part of the transportation is we get it to the Yarmouth Barnstable transfer station, and that's by truck. And the cost of that is about $5.50 a ton currently. New Bedford Waste Services they've given me a proposal, and that's what's represented here, to transport waste from our facility to their facility in Rochester at $25.95 a ton, which frankly is very expensive for transportation, and that's been made clear to them, and I have them coming in on Tuesday, and we're going to be talking further about that. One opportunity there is that, or option, is that we could transport the waste either by contracting directly with a contractor such as we do currently to get it from the transfer station to Yarmouth. We could do it to Rochester, or we could even consider doing it in-house. So I'm looking at those options, and we're trying to put together a package. Ultimately, that's the most economic for the town, cost-effective for the town.
Santos said negotiations will continue in future months. On Tuesday, work is set to begin on the Sagamore Bridge. This means travel will be restricted to one lane in each direction weekdays for the next several weeks. The lane closures will be in effect Monday through Friday between the hours of 8 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. Updates on the bridge work can be found at facebook.com/core New England. This week is Cape Cod Restaurant Week. That means 35 restaurants are offering prefix 3-course menus for $25, $30, or $35 a person. Many Barnstable residents are participating, including Alberto's, the Barnstable Tavern, the Dolphin, and Five Bays Bistro. To get a full list of restaurants and menus, visit CapeCodRestaurantWeek.com. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mannel.